What's going on, everybody? Hope everyone is having a great rest of their day so far. We got another episode of Miami Hurricanes Football After Dark. It's Saturday night. We're going live. We're talking Canes football, man. You got to love the passion of our fan base. We got a lot of great special guests on with us tonight. We'll be talking some early signing day period. What do you guys thought about the class so far? Jaelan Phillips declaring for the NFL draft. Go over our defense, what bowl matchups we think we're going to get. There's a lot to cover, Ross. Where do we start with early signing day, Ross?
Well, I think one of the big things to start off with is, these five-star guys we got. These are caliber of players that we're not bringing in all the time. So to see something like that is really refreshing. I know it's a COVID year and I know that things have been a little different, but maybe that helped us keep some of these guys local. Maybe them not being allowed to travel was actually a benefit to us. We will see what that looks like next year when things start to clear up a little more. Cornerback, that's the glaring spot. It's the spot that all the fans are talking about. Mike Rump seems to be a pretty big target on the wall that people are tossing darts at right now. I've got some theories on that, but I definitely would like to hear what you guys got to say in regards to this RC, man. What do you got to say about all this, bro?
Well, to be quite frank, I was very pleased with the signing day, the class, and having those 3 or 4 spots that we still have open. So I was very, very happy with it. The one concern that is, it's the obvious concern for everybody is the inability to get quarterbacks, to get defensive backs that fit our scheme, number one. Number two, that are athletic enough to be able to go on the boundary, to cover the slot, to be interchangeable. And that's the type of athleticism that you need. And that comes, as we've always talked about here, with upper tier athletes. So to not only not get any cornerbacks, but to still put more emphasis and more of a strain on our front seven to make sure that they come through, because the back end is not going to be there based on what we've done so far. So what I would like to see done, hopefully, is with Mike Rump, if he can land 1 or 2 portal kids, kids that are maybe stacked up at Michigan, at Ohio State, at Texas, places that kids that were 4 or 5 stars going in that they just haven't had a chance or haven't done well, haven't had the right teacher, haven't connected, whatever it may be. But if we can get 2 guys that can be serviceable, in other words, better than what we have, I think that'll put us in the right situation to be able to compete next year for an ACC championship. And I think that's the bottom line. But do, in fact, look at those 2 5-star kids that we signed. They are going to have an impact. I kind of think the kid that's going to have the biggest impact is James. I think James is just – he's a real Cane, man. He's a real dude. He really is.
RC, what's a player comparison for James Williams you can think of?
He, to me, is such a freak that kid could play in the box. He could play free safety. He could line up and guard a tight end one-on-one. He's so athletic. There's so many things that he can do that it's hard to find a comparison to make. The kid from Haines City that went to Florida State that plays for the Chargers. I think I think he's a versatility-wise, that's what I see.
Derwin James.
I think Derwin James. His size is just, he's 4 inches taller than Derwin, if I'm not mistaken. But that type of athleticism, I haven't seen that in a long time. A lot of people say, hey, man, that guy's going to make his money in the dirt. Line him up at defensive end, let him go, and he'll be the next Rousseau. So a lot of people have also mentioned that, guys who played in the league, who have seen a lot more than I have anyway. But for me, it's hard to find a comparison, to be quite honest with you guys.
Cortland, what do you think about this early signing day class?
Coming from where we were 12 months ago, I think we hit it out the park. Getting a guy like a James Williams, a guy like a Leonard Taylor, a Brashard Smith, I think really making those all-season changes with going to a Red Lashley type system, I think help us land some guys like that. It brings some excitement to the game. I think we have a lot of guys who can be a day one impact. Romello Brinson. Who else? Deshaun Troutman. I think he's a guy that's underrated on the defensive side of the ball. He's kind of a tweener linebacker, athletic, can run. And I think in this conference with the more spread offense that we see, I think us going towards those type of linebackers, I think they'll be very key. I mean, you can't dismiss what we did at cornerback. I mean, I know that's like the glaring need, but other than that, I think we knocked it out the park. It reminds me a lot of the Storm 18, and as far as the caliber of the class, I'm hoping it has a different impact in the Storm 18. I think we kind of been let down with what some of those kids have done, but I think we knocked it out the park as best as we could, coming from where we were last year.
Absolutely, Cortland. And speaking of the cornerback position, do you think ultimately we should just go to the transfer portal moving forward, bring in a veteran presence, or still go after a Tavares Dawson, who recently decommitted from Auburn, Demarius McGee, who decommitted from Tennessee? Those are two tough backs for it. But do you think we should go after recruits still up in the air, or just hit the transfer portal?
I mean, at this point, I mean, you kind of have to go to the transfer portal, but at the same time, what type of corners are we looking for? Are we looking for zone corners, or are we looking for man corners? Because I feel like a lot of times we recruit the South Florida area very heavy as far as defensive backs, but a lot of those kids come from systems where they're asked to play man and be on islands. And I mean, playing the zone, if one guy's out of position, it makes the whole unit look bad. So I think as a defense, we kind of have to shore up what are our guys' best skill sets, and then play towards a system that's beneficial for them. So, I mean, the kids, I mean, I feel like we have the talent with the kids we have on the roster, whether that's Isaiah Dunston or Marcus Clark. I feel like we have talented kids, but are we putting those kids in the best positions to be successful?
Right. Absolutely. No, I wholeheartedly agree. I would love to see more man coverage, specifically, less zone coverage. Ross, who's your favorite player in this class?
Oh man, I'm
James Williams.
I'm not gonna say James Williams, dude. Trust me, I love him. I love James Williams, and I've got nothing but the highest predictions for him. Basically, I'm actually gonna tap into the offensive line, man. Lawrence Seymour is the guy that I've got my eye on. We have got a mauler. We've got a guy who's technically sound for his age already, and I'm really excited about the idea of adding him to the mix with guys like Jalen Rivers and Isaiah Walker going forward. My eyes are focused on this offensive line. Garen Justice has a big job ahead of him. I gotta bring up one more guy too, just because I watched him cook the hell out of Jason Marshall, and that's Romello Brinson. I mean, that dude is a borderline possible 5-star type of talent, in my opinion. I don't want to get overboard about it, and I don't want to be like, just shocking, but this dude has those kind of moves in his repertoire. We saw it. I mean, he absolutely destroyed Jason Marshall. If he had had a decent quarterback, his stats would have been off the chart that game.
Guys, how do we feel about Jake Garcia as our quarterback we signed for this class? RC, how do you view Jake Garcia as a college prospect at the next level?
Unfortunately, what scares me about him, 5 schools in 4 years.
Yeah.
That's something that, and that's part of our society today, because it's the microwave society that we live in. I get it. But it does scare me that he's done that. Now, to add to that as a positive, he's run 4 different systems.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's ran them pretty well. The football IQ, I think, is very high. The arm strength is good, but not great. I watched some of that playoff game last night, and what I witnessed was someone that can make the obvious pass and take what is given to you and not force things. But there was one time in the third quarter, I think, that he forced 2 balls in a double coverage, completed both passes. Great job by the receiver. So I really think that he's got some great intangibles. He's got a solid arm, not a great arm, but a solid arm, and his football IQ is there. But there's one thing this kid has that excites me. He's got that swag. I mean, he is so freaking confident, and his persona, his aura, even at his signing when the coach messed up and pretty much let the cat out of the bag, didn't lose his composure, went back online, but the way he handled that, he's got some good character, and I like that. I mean, the warning signs are 5 schools, 4 years, but not for me, to be honest with you guys. I think he's going to be a great fit. With regards to our offense, just as Sarkisian this year had to change Alabama's offense, Rhett's going to have to make some changes for him because this guy he's not a running quarterback. He can run, but he's not a runner. He's got great pocket presence, and he moves well in the pocket, and he steps up in the pocket to deliver balls really well with contact coming at him, with the bullets flying. So this isn't the same type of quarterback that De'Eric is.
Right.
Or for that case, what Nkosi is. So it's going to be interesting how we find a way to tailor the offense around this young man. But he's very talented, guys. He's very talented.
RC, I think you hit it right, nail in the coffin. I think he needs Jake Garcia to succeed at the next level. I know this is kind of just saying a very common phrase, but I think he needs a good offensive line to protect him. He's your typical pocket passer. He's not the most mobile quarterback. I think he runs like a 4.9, 4.8 40. He's not De'Eric King. He's a completely different quarterback. He's not Brad Kaya. He's faster than Brad Kaya. Brad Kaya was a sitting duck in the pocket. But he is your prototypical pocket passer. He was actually compared to Ryan Tannehill by 24/7 Sports. I don't agree with that comparison, but that's just my opinion.
Different kind of athlete altogether. Different athlete.
Right. Yeah. Ryan Tannehill was a receiver at one point at Texas A&M, I believe.
Yeah.
Could be wrong.
Yeah.
Cortland, what are your thoughts on Jake Garcia? Do you have a similar perspective, RC, or a different one?
When I think of a guy like Jay Garcia, I think of, in basketball terms, I think of a traditional point guard like a Chris Paul or Rajon Rondo. When I think of a guy like a De'Eric King, I think of a point guard like a Damian Lillard or James Harden. I feel like if you surround him with the right guys, he can distribute and make everything around him look perfect. But I mean, you hit it right on the nail. The offensive line is going to be predicated a lot on what Jay Garcia's success is in this system. I mean, the offense can look a lot like how Rhett had it at SMU, or it could look very bad. But I look at him as a distributor, some guys who will get the people around him to play for him. I don't know if anybody else picks up on this, but I see De'Eric King as a leader, but I don't see him much as a vocal leader. I don't know if he brings guys along with him. I see him making plays, but I don't know if that's a guy where the receivers go, okay, I want to go put my body on the line for him. When I see Jay Garcia, I kind of get that moxie from him. I kind of see that swag where he'll make the receivers want to go run through a wall for him because that's my quarterback. So hopefully he has that point guard effect on the whole offense, and guys can trust in him, know the spots to be in, and kind of just take this offense to the next level. Although a dual threat, I think it was perfect for with where we are with our offensive line and just the team. It gives us a whole new look. But I think in today's college football, you have to throw to win. And for us to take that next step, we're going to have a quarterback who can stand in that pocket and just pick defenses apart.
Absolutely. No, I wholeheartedly agree with everything you said. Anything else we want to touch on before we move on from the topic of early signing day? Anything?
I have a question actually for you guys, honestly. I know the staff of course has their ideas about Chase Smith, but is there any ideas that you guys have that you might like to see him? Would you like to see him try it on defense, offense? He is a superb athlete and he's got some great size. So where can we fit him in at?
Wow. Athletically speaking, I think he's a chip off the old block. And I think he'll be one hell of a tight end, to be honest with you. Will he play linebacker? Will he play tight end? Will he I don't know. He's got such a great skill set, but the one thing I know about that kid's always going to do his responsibility. If you watch his film up there at Palm Bay, that kid doesn't blow assignments. He's fundamentally sound. And Corner, we were talking about fundamentals earlier this evening. This kid's fundamentally sound. You've seen the kid block? I mean, he takes on defensive ends, defensive tackles if he has to. I mean, I've seen the kid do a little bit of everything, but he also can run with the ball pretty well for a kid his size. So I think he's such a great athlete. They're going to be fighting in those coaching rooms who's going to get him.
Yeah,
I'm going to tell you that. If I'm on defense, I want him at linebacker. That's where I want that kid. If I'm on defense, I want him there. If I'm on offense, he's going to fit in my receivers room somewhere. Not as freaky of an athlete as Njoku, but you see some similarities there.
Yeah, no, David Njoku. I mean, that was as raw as it could be coming into University of Miami. Came out to be a first-round tight end. I mean, I thought he was a very raw, great athlete. And Chase Smith, it's one of those things. I don't think we need another safety. I can see him play striker, linebacker as well, receiver. I mean, it's good to have him in the program because of his athletic skill set and just kind of figure out later on where he needs to play. I'm very excited about his future. I think he's going to be a very good player at the next level. So it'll be interesting where the staff decides. And that's going to be very key, guys, with development as well. Dallas Crawford, for example, he came in as a safety, I believe, was moved to running back, and then went back to safety his senior year, and it wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty at all. I would have loved to have him at the running back position moving forward.
And D'Onofrio's defense, nothing was pretty. Not even Denzel was pretty.
Oh, man.
We get into our current defense, guys. Speaking of D'Onofrio, if you guys haven't heard yet, Coach Banda is on a short list. He's a candidate for the Utah State defensive coordinator position. Do you think this is legit, that Coach Banda is interested in being the defensive coordinator at Utah State, or do you think this could be maybe propaganda? Do you think maybe he's upcoming to be the next defensive coordinator at Miami? Cortland, what do you think?
I hope it's not propaganda. I hope it's real. That way, if we do let go of Baker, we can't hire from within. Diaz he'll be forced to make some changes. Right. I'm just a guy. I feel like if Banda were to get promoted, I feel like he'd just be the same puppet that Baker is, and everything will be coming through Diaz. I think we need a guy who just has a different lens on football. Now, whether him and Diaz can combine and use their ideas and kind of mesh off each other, but I just feel like we just need a new outlook. I mean, I feel like we kind of like maxed out the progress of his defense in this conference. Teams are kind of used to what we're doing. They're used to where the run fits are. They're used to the third down blitzes. I think we just need something just to give us a spark, a little bit of change to go in another direction. So I hope it's not just smoke and mirrors.
Cortland, I wholeheartedly agree. I personally want a new defensive coordinator who brings in his own staff that has no association with the Coach Diaz coaching tree. I want nothing to do with Manny Diaz. But unfortunately, I can't imagine Coach Diaz letting go of that defense that he fairly created at Miami. Because after D'Onofrio, I mean, he really did set the tone for the defense. And, everyone on his staff, besides Mike Rump, is associated with Coach Diaz and is a student of his game, of his defensive scheme. Ross, what do you think about this matter?
Man, I'm in the same boat as you, Paul. I'm ready for something totally new. I feel like if Diaz decides to make the same kind of hire that he did with, let's say he gets rid of Baker, right? If he makes that same kind of hire where he's pulling from the group of five or FBS or FCS type level and stuff like that, to me, that's just hiring another glorified cheerleader that will be a yes man, that will do anything Diaz wants and won't argue with him, won't put up a fight, won't put up a fuss or anything like that. I want a guy who's going to come in that understands the spread defense of today. I want a guy who is going to improve our coverage unit yearly. I want somebody that is known, honestly. Taking a shot in the dark with a guy like Baker as head coach, a guy who like you said, I don't know if he can keep his hands off this defense. I really don't. So having somebody come in that has absolutely no connection to him and somebody who's more qualified, he can bounce ideas off of, I think is only going to benefit this team. I mean, to great lengths, honestly. It'll benefit us on the field and in recruiting, I believe.
RC, what are your thoughts?
I'm going to disagree with you guys. I think it's vital we don't lose Banda. He's our best recruiter other than Coach Fields. and he's proven that. If you look at the best talent that we brought in, he's been involved with it. He's been the primary recruiter. Some people say, well, they don't let Mike recruit. That's not true. That's not true at all. Although he has more to say than Mike does. Mike is not a recruiter. Mike made that clear from the very beginning. He is not going to kiss any kid's ass to come play at University of Miami. You don't want to play here? Fine, next guy. That's the mentality he's had. That's the mentality he's always going to have. So when you look at losing Banda, you're going to lose your best recruiter. Nobody's going to come in and Manny's going to give him the key and say, run it. Manny has to have control. The defense, by the way, gentlemen, that we use, it's a spinoff of Mickey Andrews' defense that Florida State used, by the way. I mean, that really is what it is. They never had to face. If you look at their 2-minute defense back in those days, that's what they run on D. That's what we do. That's where the striker comes from. So when you look at the evolution of it, he's not going to give anything away. He's just not going to give ownership away. The one guy that's on staff that could hop in that seat, and I wouldn't lose too sleep over it if we did lose Bandit and he took over the defense, is Ed Reed. And people say, well, he's never been a coordinator. Listen, Ed's forgotten more football than this entire staff put together will ever know. Okay? Ed Reed is he's a walking football encyclopedia. So he is the guy that I would love to see jump in that role. And I think it's interesting that Manny picked him, last year for the spot that he's in right now. But right now, I don't see Banda leaving, to be honest with you. I mean, have you ever been to Utah?
I've never.
Never.
I mean, you're getting second-tier kids from California, Arizona. You try to get the best kid out of Utah. Guess what? The best kids out of Utah, they go to BYU or they go to Utah. You're the third pony in that race. So I don't see Banda leaving, but that's just me. I prefer to keep him based on the recruiting front because we know, gentlemen, it's about the Jimmies and the Joes.
Now, RC, I feel like if Banda stays on staff, they get rid of Baker, Banda's going to be the defensive coordinator.
You would suspect that, but I wouldn't say that's for sure. I think Banda loves the biggest love. If you've ever been around the guy, his biggest love is recruiting. That guy's a recruiting fool. Coordinators are a little different. They finish things. Guys who go fetch the players or go get the players are your position guys. And then you just finish. You have to make sure as a coordinator that you don't screw up the deal at the end as a coordinator, that you have a good interaction with that kid when they come to visit and when you have your home visit. But I don't see that. I don't know for sure if that'd be the case. Can Bannon make a little bit more money out of the deal? Might happen. I mean, think about it. He was gone for what, 3 weeks? He wasn't at practice, in the hospital 2 or 3 times the last 2 weeks. Look at the impact on the field in our last game. A lot of that is attributed to those coaches not being there. And I think it'd be a big loss for us in many different ways, but especially with the kids. Kids love them.
RC, like you say with the position coaches, we've got the position coaches that, do a lot of this legwork with these kids and stuff like that and do a lot of the hard work behind the scenes, and the coordinators oftentimes get credited for all that kind of stuff. How long are we willing to have a position coach like Mike Rumpf who is not willing to go out and do this stuff? Because honestly, the best I'd say at least the best CB units that I've seen are from guys who actually go out and put in that work and actually set it up themselves. They don't have somebody like Banda going and doing all of that for them. They set it up. How long are we willing to let a position coach simply sit back and just wait for players to land in his lap?
I think it's time to part ways on both fronts. 2 years ago, he had a chance to go to the Niners. The Rams wanted to interview him the year before that. And he's a great teacher. If you ever had a chance to go to those camps and watch him with those studs, he's a phenomenal teacher. He's a great teacher. The issue is the way he comes across day-to-day, the day-to-day experience that players have with the players that we have in today's world, with our society, he doesn't mesh well with that. There's a conflict there, and they butt heads a lot. The kid from Alabama that left, first thing he put on Instagram was on his story it was all negative about Mike. 2 different people, he said. It's the same guy that recruited me. And that happens a lot in college. It happens the most, no matter what the sport is. But he's not the same type of teacher that he says he's going to be. My indication that he was not going to be a good recruiter when the kid that we had, Bird from Fort Myers, I think, when he decommitted, I'm like, this guy.
Yeah, he went to Tennessee.
Naples. Yeah, he was from Naples.
Naples. He's got nothing. And then he had two kids. He had just gotten a job. He had two kids from Heritage that were seniors. Neither one, they were committed, but they weren't signed yet. Neither one came and took a visit. At least you give your coach a token visit. That's a norm in the profession. So then we flip 2 years later, and he can't even land the kids that he coached when they were little and coached them in high school, and Surtain and Tyson. So that tells you everything you need to know. The guy's not a recruiter.
Right.
But it is time. It is time for us to part ways. And T-Rob, if you're out there, we want you right now. Let's get T-Rob right now.
I think that would be a great hire at the cornerback position. Is everyone on board with Blake Baker getting fired from the program? Or is there anyone with – go ahead, Portland.
I feel like he should be booking a U-Haul right now. He can get a Christmas discount.
Does everyone think it will happen? Or does someone doubt it?
I think it'll happen. I think it'll happen, definitely. I don't see – I mean, how can you sit back as Manny Diaz as a defensive coordinator yourself and say, man, it's okay that we got ran all over, that we couldn't stop 3 run plays. We literally couldn't guess it right, not even half the time. They couldn't stop 2 counter runs from each side, basically. I don't see how he could be okay with what he saw out of Baker. I just don't see.
Does anyone go ahead.
With Diaz being a coach who's been giving up 500 yards rushing in the game and getting fired in the season like that, I can kind of see him having some compassion for his guy Blake. So I can see it going where he fires him, or I can see it going where he keeps him. I think firing him would be his admission to my system doesn't work. And I just can't see Diaz being that type of person where he's just hands off completely with the defense. So even if you fire him, he's just getting rid of a puppet to put another puppet there. If the real change to me would be if he goes in a completely different direction with the defense and be hands off and just say he's going to focus on being a head football coach, managing the team, managing special teams, doing all of that. But just from outside looking in, I don't see him going that way. But I hope he does.
To me, that's like the CEO kind of move for Diaz, to take his hands off of certain things.
Why? Look at every hire he's made. The only hires he stayed out of was when Rhett came on board and said, I'm getting him, and him. Other than that, he had no say in who Rhett chose on his staff. None. And it's funny because one of the first guys that Rhett contacted had no interest in being here because he doesn't like Manny, and they had a relationship at Texas. Just, what goes around comes around. So I agree. I don't see it happening, guys. I don't see it happening. I would love for him to get a good job, maybe as a head coach at a smaller Division I football program, Southeast Louisiana, Tech, something like that. If it opens up, it'd be great for him to get a job like that. He's had a top 25 defense the last 2 years that he was here. It'd be great to see him move on. But I agree with Corlin. I just don't see it happening. He's loyal. It still stings him what happened at Texas, and that's what made that Saturday that much worse for Manny. Was he wanted to get a little bit of revenge from last year, but more than that, I think it's what happened out in Texas, because that was pretty ugly.
It's I think the great ones, they put the pride aside, or like they just don't care. I mean, Nick Saban, like, he doesn't care. Urban Meyer, and he doesn't care. Like, he's kind of, I hate to say it, they're assholes. Those are the great ones. And I think that's what's going to be the Achilles heel for Manny Diaz is, the pride. Drop your pride and just fire your staff. If you want to be successful, bring in a new defensive coordinator like you did with the offense. If not, you're just Al Golden. That's really what you are. You're just Al Golden without a tie. That's the way I see it. And, I'm going to repeat this. I've said this in every video. Temple wanted what Manny Diaz was Temple's second choice. Manny Diaz was our first choice. If we play Alabama next year, week 1, we will lose by 50. It's going to be ugly. They will eat us alive. And once again, it'll be the same thing with an SEC opponent like we saw in Dallas. We will be humbled as a program. This hire might set us back a while, in my opinion. I could be wrong if Manny Diaz doesn't work out, because we took a gamble on him. We could have been very patient, national coaching search, and it only took us like 6 hours to find Manny Diaz.
But that's an indictment on the administration of the school, and more specifically the athletic department. Blake's a great guy. I worked in small colleges when I first started this whole thing, and there's nothing wrong with being the AD at Maine. He got that job after working at the University of Miami and tickets and in fundraising. There's nothing wrong with being at that level. Okay. At this level, you have to have a mentality of, I'm trying to win, not just trying to make enough money to have all these sports, but I got to win. I got to get back to what caused our greatness from the very beginning, which was football, regardless of how good baseball was. It was football. So when he makes a decision like that, it shows two things. One, you're desperate. Number two, you have a negative situation with the best candidate for the job, and you're going to let your little spoiled ego get in the way of it. Right. Because Mario, who left FIU after he got fired, was here for what? A cup of coffee? Got into an argument at Vero Beach High School with the coach from Auburn. I think it was McGriff at the time, if I'm not mistaken. And the AD from that high school called Blake James, gave him an earful, and next thing you know, Al Golden's ripping a new one into Mario. Mario says, okay. That was on a Friday. Sunday night, he took the job at Alabama.
Yep.
Okay? That's the truth. That's a true story. And why did that happen? Very simple. Because you've got a guy that has no clue how to run football. And until that situation is addressed, Paul, I'm sorry, this might continue for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
You've got to get the right guy in place. And I know last night we watched Washington was supposed to be in a Rose Bowl. Okay. Somehow Oregon got in there. USC was undefeated, right? USC was making a case. So a lot of people making a case, hey, they should be in the Final Four. Really? Some guys know how to win. Some guys know how to take players. And he lost 14 starters, and they win, and they're going to the Rose Bowl? Come on. You've got to have the right coach. The right coach was Mario back then, and it is right now. And I'd like to know, what's the one buyout he has in his contract? He just renewed his contract. What's the one buyout? I'd like to know that.
Phil Knight has him in his back pocket.
It's a lot.
Phil Knight has him in his back pocket. And here's the thing about Mario, too. I think he wants to focus his recruiting in the Southeast, and I think he can kill it. But a lot of kids, they don't want to go all the way to Oregon. That's very far. I mean, that is far. If you live in South Florida, why would you want to go to Eugene, Oregon? That is from one end of the country to the other. I understand the whole Nike thing, but your parents, your family members will never see you play. And it's very lonely out there. It's raining all the time. It's kind of depressing. I mean, well, Ross is from Washington, so he'd be the best judge of it. Is it raining all the time?
It's not as bad as everybody thinks it is. That's what it is more than raining is it's just gray and cloudy all the damn time. That's where the depression comes in, guys. I mean, yeah, it's gonna rain, but Northwest is just it's just gray. That's going to be the big change for a kid trying to come from a place like Florida to Oregon. Now, the one thing I will say about Oregon If you guys have seen their facilities and what Nike has done at their facilities, when those kids walk through that hall, when they bring them in as recruits and they see every custom shoe built, every custom helmet, all of that stuff on the side, I think that does kind of go, hey, maybe Oregon isn't so bad of a place. Maybe I can deal with some of this kind of crap, you know?
Absolutely. Guys, Jaelan Phillips has declared for the NFL draft. Are we surprised? Now, I know he soared through Mel Kiper's draft board. Portland, what are your thoughts about Jaelan Phillips declaring?
I kind of figured he would. Being a kid like him with the injury history, I mean, you don't want to take that chance or keep on playing for free, knowing the background that you set out so many games. So, I mean, I'm all for it. I mean, I feel like it should help in our D line and DN recruiting, but I kind of had a sense halfway through when he kind of started picking up steam a little bit. Although he didn't have the sacks, the quarterback pressures that he had, I figured the scouts would kind of take notice of that and he would kind of make that jump. Whether he was first or second round, I felt like he was going to make that leap just based on his injury history.
How about yourself, RC?
I suspected his stock blew up when we played Virginia Tech. Their left tackle will be top 25 pick at worst. He'll be top 15 at best. And if you watch his matchups with that kid, I mean, Jaelan owned him. He also owned the kid that was formerly committed to Ohio State at left guard when they put him over the center in third and long. I mean, his stock went up so much that game, it's not even funny. And then people are like, well, you know, after the Carolina game, he played so bad. You know, the technique he was using is what he's taught. That was part of the game plan that day. So that guy is going to be – I don't think he'll be the first defensive end picked in the draft. I still think Rousseau will. And, you know, maybe Micah Parsons from Penn State was really an outside linebacker, but he's more of a defensive end anyway, whatever, a pass rusher. But I think he made the right decision. It's I wouldn't play in the bowl game. I don't know if he's even declared whether he can play in the bowl game, but you're in the Cheez-It Bowl. You know, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't have – if he's my son, he's not playing. He's done.
Right.
But then again, this kid's a little bit different. He's a West Coast artistic kind of kid. Wouldn't it surprise you? He said, no, I'm playing with my brothers. I'm playing. Because he does have a lot of loyalty. If you see what he's done in the community, he's a different kid now. This is a well-rounded kid. But, yeah, it's time to go.
Ross, what are your thoughts?
You know, one thing that I definitely want to add to this, and we've seen it before, the NFL isn't always about production. It's about potential. And that's one thing that Phillips knows better than anybody else about himself. Phillips, even if Phillips had not put up some of the stats that he had put up, Phillips knew no matter what that when he gets to that combine, he is going to destroy it with his athletic makeup. I mean, he is just guys his size don't move like he does. Guys with his strength don't move like he does. It's a reason why he was a 5-star top 3 type kid in his recruiting class. You know, like I said, this to me with him, Rousseau has the sacks. He had all of that. Phillips does have some stats that he can lean on, but he is all about potential and all about upside, and what an NFL DC can do with him at the next level is going to be pretty freaky in my opinion, especially if he stays healthy.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, he reminds me a lot of Joey Bosa. I think he's a first to third round pick in the NFL draft. We'll see where he ends up, but I think it was a good decision for him, and best of luck moving forward. There were some games this year where he didn't show up. You know, there were some games, but hey, it is what it is. Wish him the best of luck. We'll see how he develops at the next level. Now that Jaelan Phillips declared for the NFL draft, are there any other players you guys are expecting? Maybe a Quincy Roche, Brevin Jordan, Bubba Bolden that will also declare? Or do you think they will come back? What do you think, Cortland?
I personally expect Brevin to declare too, just based on his injury situation as well.
Yep.
I mean, he's had so many nagging injuries. He's missed 3-4 games a year. I mean, with the way the rookie contracts are these days, hey, I mean, you can make your money on your second deal. If you feel like you're going to be a top 3 pick with the way that the game is going, you can be a tight end that can be inline and flex out, and someone has a high value for you. Hey, I say, man, go ahead and take that chance. I mean, it sucks for us to keep having guys leave early when the top programs have seniors. Like I'm watching the Najee Harris, who has 5 touchdowns right now. And he literally could have left and may have went first round last year. But that's a guy that comes back for his senior year, even like Clemson a couple years ago with those D linemen coming back. I wish as a program we get to the point where our top kids can come back. Unfortunately, this year, our top kids have a sort of an injury history. So, I mean, I couldn't blame no kid for going to take that money.
How about you, RC?
I'm going to throw this name out there. Might shock all three of you. I'm glad the punter's coming back. I'm being very honest. That guy turns the field for you. He definitely drafted this year at what, 5th round, 6th round at least. He's definitely the best punter in college football, if not the second best. And he says, no, I want to get my degree. I mean, he could leave now. He's got a kid back home in New Zealand, is it? Right? New Zealand, Australia, something like that.
Australia,
yeah. He definitely does. He wants one more year of the college life. He's going to get his degree. But that guy is pivotal for our defense because he turns the field for us. And we've seen what it's like when we don't have a punter. It's not very pretty for our defense. So I think that was a huge keep for us. But I agree with Cortland. We have to admit that it's time for Brevin to go. And maybe this is harsh, but I kind of want him to go. I think Mallory's a better tight end. He's more durable. He's made more of an impact this year and last year. If you look at the stats and his big plays, he's produced well. He blocks a little bit better than Brevin. I just think we're better off with him and not going with the 2 tight end set. I think every time we play 2 tight end set, Mallory disappears because the focus is everything to get the ball to Brevin. With his injury history, man, there's no point in coming back. I mean, there's another guy that if he's my son, hey, man, you're not playing. Worst case, he's a 4th rounder. Worst case. I'll take that.
No, I've always said it. I think Will Mallory is the better NFL draft prospect moving forward. I've always wanted us to incorporate Will Mallory more in the playbook as well. I feel like at times during games, we don't really turn to him at all. We don't target him. I've always been disappointed in that. I mean, he's 6'5". He ran track and field in high school. Put him out on the boundary. And we need a tall receiver. Why not give him a shot? He can probably play Power 5 football at the wide receiver position at some schools, specifically in the Big Ten, in my opinion. So, no, I completely agree, RC. Guys, Ross, we'll start with you. D'Eriq King, is he coming back next year or no?
Yeah, I got D'Eriq King coming back. If he wants to play quarterback in the NFL, this wasn't the season to take off and do it. He came to Miami to showcase that on a bigger level. Yes, he did have some production and stuff, but at his size, he is going to have to show that he can hit wide receivers in stride downfield consistently on big plays. That's something that he flat out has to show at his size in the NFL. You look at the Russell Wilsons and the Kyler Murrays. What do they do best? They get outside the pocket, they get away from the tall guys, and they make stuff happen downfield. We know he's a superior athlete. I'm not 100% sold that D'Eriq King will ever play quarterback in the NFL, honestly. And if I wanted to, we'll give some harsh truth here on my part, I guess. If D'Eriq King wants to play in the NFL, the best thing he could do is start running routes from the slot and work as a slot receiver, because I don't see him as an NFL quarterback at all. I see him as a gimmicky weapon is what I see him at the NFL level. So that's why I think he'll definitely be back to try to improve. He wants to play quarterback in the NFL. So he's going to come back to try to improve some of that stature that he's going to have amongst NFL GMs.
Cortland, what do you think?
I think it would be beneficial for our quarterback room if you were to come back. I mean, I feel like going into the next season, which will be 2022, I feel like you'd have a Garcia who's been in the program for 6 months to a year. At that point, you have a Van Dyke who'd have 2 years. So the competition level would elevate. But just from a fan being easier on the eye, I want him to come back. I can't imagine what game 1 would be like against Bama, starting a freshman quarterback or starting a N'Kosi Perry. But I mean, I agree with Ross. I don't really know what his ceiling would be as a quarterback going towards the NFL. I mean, there's been a lot of times this year where we've just not connected on downfield throws. He's underthrown Pope on a couple posts. He's missed a couple shots, but I mean, he's been what we needed. Us as fans, we appreciate him because our quarterback play has probably been so abysmal lately. So coming from Malik Rozier to De'Aaron King is just like wow, we have a quarterback, but just amongst the other top quarterbacks in the country, I feel like he's the middle of the road. So just for his size, I think just being able to come back and execute against those NFL defenses, being able to identify the blitz and throw into the blitz, all those little nuances of being a quarterback, I think he still needs to work on that at a Power 5 level.
I 110% agree. I think multiple times he's underthrown receivers. I think ultimately he is a college football playmaker at the quarterback position. I don't see him playing quarterback at the next level. I don't even see him playing receiver. I don't know where to put him at the next level. I don't think he's an NFL player. Maybe there's some certain packages you can fit him in. I don't think so. I really don't. Another year of college football, I think it's only going to help him. If he does not return, like Cortland said, we are going to be in big trouble against Alabama. You throw in a N'Kosi Perry, a Jake Garcia, or Tyler Van Dyke against the team that's probably going to play in the national title game and win the national title game. I mean, they're the heavy favorite, no doubt about it. We will get eaten alive. We would have to go to the transfer portal. Plus, I don't think N'Kosi Perry returns. He has his degree. I think he's going to transfer out to another school. RC, what are your thoughts?
I'm pulling for him to come back. I think the best thing for him to do with his development is another year of working with Rhett. And to be honest with you, I think that's a big part of Rhett solidifying wanting to be here for one more year, is to have a chance to work with him for another year. In terms of his development, he lost so much work in the spring and through COVID that, it impacts everybody, but especially a quarterback when you're coming in as a transfer. It took a while for that chemistry to get going with the receivers. They've done a better job, but I think it's best for him to come back for his development. And in terms of the NFL, he might be fifth or a sixth rounder in the 22 draft, okay, if he comes back. Probably won't make a roster. That kid needs to play in Canada. Canada has always been a great place for guys, especially quarterbacks, to evolve and to grow, especially small quarterbacks, okay? There's a guy by the name of Jeff Garcia, who was barely, 5'10", who played for the Niners, had a decent little career in the NFL after being in the CFL. Doug Flutie. There's a lot of guys that spent time there and developed. So I think it would behoove him to give it a shot in the camp and then go to Canada if he really wants to play quarterback. He's not a good enough athlete to play corner or receiver in the NFL. He's just not. He's good for a quarterback, but he doesn't have what it takes at those positions. So I think the best case for him, stick at the quarterback position and give it a shot next year. See what happens. This is the best place for him. I will say that in terms of him having the best upside in terms of his career right now. I'd play another year if I were him.
Ross, we're heading off to the final segment of the show. Anything else you want to add?
Actually, yeah, there's one thing I want to add. There's a guy that's been on my mind that I don't fully expect him to necessarily look to the NFL, but I would not be absolutely shocked if Cam Harris decides to look somewhere else for more snaps, if he feels Don Chaney and Rooster are really going to overtake him next season. And the possibilities of that happening are true. Don't get me wrong. Cam Harris is a power back. He has value in that aspect, and there's always something that can be done on our offense with that. But as a running back looking to make it to the NFL, your idea is to get carries. It doesn't matter if you get them at Miami or Southern Missouri. As long as you perform and you show what you can do, NFL GMs will see it at that position. You don't need to be a first, second round pick. You can be an undrafted guy, but you got to get the opportunities to show it. And if he starts to sense really quick here, especially a guy like Chaney, who's going to start taking those RB1 snaps, I wouldn't be shocked, honestly. That's just a guy that I wanted to throw out there.
No, it's an interesting name you threw out. I mean, Cam Harris was a player who showed frustrations when he didn't get a lot of snaps. During a specific game throughout the season. It was on social media. He's going to be entering his senior year. If he comes back next year, I think Cam Harris, physical-wise, he's built like a starting running back at any level. Measurement-wise, he can play at Alabama, no doubt about it. It's really, I think people were at times blaming the offensive line for not opening holes. I think he's very patient finding the hole. I feel like Don Chaney just shoots through the gap, per se. Needs to be more. I would like to see Cam Harris become more aggressive. Junior year was definitely a letdown, in my opinion. Huge letdown. All right, we got 8 minutes left, guys. Who do you guys think we will be playing in the bowl game? Now, if you want to throw in your college football playoff prediction as well, that's fine. Notre Dame they didn't lose to Clemson. They got blown out, rightfully so. Hey, I was completely wrong. I said there wouldn't be a difference with the new quarterback because DJ Ugale, however you pronounce his name, my apologies, threw for 400 passing yards in South Bend. Throwing Trevor Lawrence, it's night and day the difference. Do you guys think Notre Dame is out of the college football playoffs, or are they still in? Cortland, what are your thoughts?
I feel that they've played their way out. Just based on the way that Notre Dame has looked in big games late in the season, December, January, where teams have time to prepare for them, whether that's the Cotton Bowl from 2 years ago or the BCS championship game down in Miami when Alabama just literally ran through them. I think Notre Dame hasn't had a great showing in postseason bowl games. But if it came down to the committee and then making a choice between Notre Dame and Texas A&M, I could see a brand just like the Golden Dome, Notre Dame kind of etching their way in and being that 4th seed. But I don't know how many people will feel about them playing Alabama again. I don't see that as being much of an interesting game.
How about you, RC?
Kind of torn with all that, to be quite frank. Just don't have a good feel. Like right now, Florida just cut it to a 7-point game, a 1-possession game with 6 minutes to go. I did not expect Alabama to play this way.
Right.
I'm kind of thinking, based on what I saw today, that Clemson might be the number 1 team in the country.
Really?
I would say 3 starters on defense missing and the best player in college football not being there. I think that definitely you can see the impact of all those elements today. I'm not impressed with Alabama tonight, to be honest with you. Florida's a good team, no doubt about it, but team that loses to LSU at home on senior night, I don't know. So right now, I would say Notre Dame's out. And the team that might find a way to get in there is Texas A&M.
Yep.
There's no way Cincinnati's going to get in there, even if they win.
Absolutely not.
That's not happening. So, but right now, I would say number 1 would be Clemson, 2 Bama. And I saw them play today, and I liked what I saw out of Oklahoma, but obviously they got 2 losses. That's not going to happen. But after that, man, Notre Dame might still be in there. I don't want them to be in there, but Ohio State has to be with 7 wins and a poor performance against a team that has no offense. They got 300 yards on them today in Northwestern. But Ohio State will definitely be in there. I think the team that's going to be out is going to be Notre Dame.
RC, you mentioned Texas A&M. I remember when I was on my way to watch the Miami versus LSU game in Dallas, Texas. We were at the car dealership in line, and I said the best thing that's ever happened to the University of Miami was Jimbo Fisher leaving the state of Florida.
No
He
doubt.
is such a good football coach, in my opinion.
Yep.
And to bring Texas A&M to the college football playoffs, keep in mind, when was the last time they even got close to a national title? That's a hard. Remember, you got Texas, you got Oklahoma in your backyard, Oklahoma State. That's even TCU at times. That's a tough place to win.
I don't think they've been in the mix since they were in the Southwest Conference, to be honest with you. In that
I'm telling you,
conference.
Jimbo Fisher has done a tremendous job, and he's recruiting amazingly in Miami. Amari Daniels, Keith Brown. He'll probably get Terrence Lewis. He'll probably sneak him in there if he wants it. I know he had Maryland and Tennessee in his final two, but he never signed with either school.
I think he's already signed the papers yesterday, is what I was told.
Okay.
And they're going to announce it, I think, later on. But I was told he signed the papers already. That situation is just so unsettling. I don't even know what to say about it, to be honest with you.
I hear you. No, I hear you, man. I mean, Tennessee or Maryland. I mean, I think that those programs represent itself. Guys, what's our bowl prediction and who are we playing? Cortland, go for it.
Well, from the things that I've been reading today, it's looking like it's going to be Oklahoma State. Their running back, Hubbard, I know he's opted out, so maybe we might have dodged the bullet there. But, I mean, Big 12 offenses, that's something that might keep me up at night just thinking about going just the design of them. So, I mean, I can't even say I'm looking forward to it. The only thing I'm looking forward to, I would say, is spring ball. I know we have 15 of those kids who signed early. I know they're going to be on campus soon. So that's kind of where my focus is. A bowl game. With me, the only thing a bowl game would do is solidify whether or not Blake Baker's coming back or not. So that's the only thing I can kind of have optimism toward the bowl game for.
If we play Oklahoma State, what do you think the score would be?
I'd say a shootout. I'd say like 45-38, 45-34, something along those lines. I could see us beating a team like that, but they were also a ranked team, so I could see them. I don't trust our preparation when we have time off, so I can't really say that I've seen signs of us being able to put together a game plan to stop an explosive offense. So, I mean, if we were to win, I could see us winning a shootout, but if we could lose, I could see us losing the shootout too. But I think it will be that type of game, a high-scoring, kind of back-and-forth type game.
Ross, your thoughts?
Yeah, I got us Oklahoma State, and even with Hubbard out, I got us losing 35-28. I think that we show some improvement and show a little bit of ability to come back after the UNC game. I don't think that we just get mowed over in any type of game like this. I think that there is some pride on this team, and I think there's a little bit of pride on this staff that wants to show itself. I think these guys really want to go out on a high level after having a decent season finally. I mean, yes, it ended poorly, but we did improve this year, and there are some positives. And even if we lose a bowl game, there are still positives to be gained from it if we show up and we compete for 4 quarters. And that's honestly what I'd really like to see.
RC?
I'm in agreement with all of you guys. I'm hoping it's Oklahoma State and not Texas for sure, because Texas will give us, that'll be a nightmare. I'm concerned about their defense is much improved. Oklahoma State's never had a good defense, but they changed coordinators 2 years ago. So this is their 3rd year with the same guy, and that defense looked a lot better than it's ever looked for Oklahoma State. We watched the game against Oklahoma. Same thing that always happens to us against good teams is what happens to Oklahoma State when they play Oklahoma. But that team is athletically, I think we match up very well. Will it be a shootout? It depends where our kids are at mentally right now. I don't know where our kids are at mentally, but I can tell you guys, I hate excuses, but reality is reality. This COVID thing has really impacted this entire program. The way it hit the last couple of weeks, last month, this ain't the same team that limped into Blacksburg and came out with the victory. It's not the same team, guys. So I don't know. We could probably get trounced again for all I know, but it doesn't look good. It depends on how we are mentally, I think.
My prediction is that we'll play Oklahoma State, and we'll probably lose 42-31. Like stated earlier, it is a Big 12 offense. That's what the Big 12 is known for, is great offense, not a good defense. I think our magic number offensively is 31 to the 35 range. We don't score over 35 a lot. We don't really put up gaudy numbers offensively. We're an above average offense. Let's be real. We're not a great offense.
Yeah.
It's first year under Will Ashley too. We'll see how year 2 goes, but I think 42-31. We'll hang in there. It will be a fight, and then towards the end of the fourth quarter, Oklahoma State will take away the lead. But that's all we got for tonight, guys. Thank you everyone for joining us. Talk some Canes football. Greatly appreciate your time. RC in the 305, Portland as well, guys. Hope everyone has a great rest of their week. Happy holidays to everyone who will be listening later. And always, guys, all about the U.
All about you, baby.